I'm finally doing it! My green color corrector video that I've been promising you for probably close to 2 years now. I have 14 different color correctors to talk about today, and I have a few different ways that I'll be comparing them to each other, so I'll have that better described and listed out in the description box. And I'll try my best to include timestamps too, so that you can skip around to just the parts that you care about or just the products that you care about. Green color correctors have revolutionized the way I do my makeup over the past couple of years. For a long time, I had trouble finding foundations that really matched me because often if they were light enough, they weren't the right tone. Some people use a green color corrector directly on their skin underneath foundation because they maybe have some red parts of their face that they want to color correct. For me, I find that my entire face gets pretty red and it makes it look darker than the rest of my body. So I mix a green color corrector directly into my foundation so that I can get that sort of redness color correction all over my face. And I also find that it helps to sort of neutralize a lot of the foundations I have because some of them are even a little bit too yellow or a little too warm. If you have a really deep skin tone, I don't know if these green colors are going to work for you. You may actually need a different color to mix in with your foundations in order to get the same sort of results that I'm looking for. And if you have a really strong olive undertone or overtone, I don't necessarily think that this is the best video for you. I can only really speak on how I like to use these products and kind of give you some more information about each of these formulas and colors and price points and stuff to help you make a better decision for yourself. Before I start showing you the demos, I wanted to quickly explain how I'm going to be applying the products to my face. I don't have any makeup or skincare on my face. It's just my dry, bare, clean face. And what I'll do is I'll put some of the green corrector on this half of my cheek, and that way you'll be able to see, compared to my bare skin, what kind of color correcting it does, how pigmented it is. You'll also see me slightly blend it in, so you'll get a better idea of how pigmented or how thick, etc. the formula is. And then on this side, I'm going to be putting a swatch of my most yellow foundation. This is the Smashbox Always On Skin Balancing Foundation, and I'm in the shade F10-0. It's very yellow, a little too yellow for me, and so I'll put a really heavy swatch of that on this side of my cheek so you can see what it looks like on its own, and then I'll mix this in with a generous amount of that green color corrector and swatch that on this side. It's going to turn the foundation green, but I wanted to show you what it looks like mixed with a yellow foundation, just again to get a better idea of how pigmented the product is or how pigmented you can get it. If you have a lot of redness that you wanted to cover, I wanted to show you what it could do. But for me personally, I'm only adding a little bit of the green in order to cancel out some of the redness so that my face matches my body better. You're gonna see a lot of green on my face, and I wanted to clarify that it's just for demo purposes. All right, let's move forward. I'm gonna start with my least favorite one, the dud. This is really the only one that I wouldn't recommend to anybody. And once I finish it, I would not consider repurchasing. And that's the Atelier Skin Perfect Color Corrector. This is cruelty-free and vegan, and it has 7.5 milliliters in it. This is the lightest green color corrector I have, and it's very watery and very white-based. Because this isn't very pigmented, you do need a lot in order to notice any difference when you're mixing it with something. And this is the most expensive color corrector I have. It's $34. And I imagine I'm gonna go through it really, really quickly. If you solely use really, really watery foundations that already are very low coverage and you're just looking for something really slight, this may work for you, but I just don't think it's worth it. And then as I move forward, I'm gonna kind of go in order of color groups. So I'm starting with the ones that have a lot of white or gray, and then I'll move into the more yellow warm greens and then end with the blue greens. So the next one in this white or gray category is the Exa color corrector, the high fidelity color corrector, and this is also 7.5 milliliters. I've heard this described by Hannah Louise Poston as very desaturated, and I think that's a really accurate way to describe this. It has a little bit of a gray tinge to it, This one is also not too pigmented. More pigmented than the Face Atelier one, but it's not so pigmented that you have to be careful with it. So it's easy to work with and it's not too finicky. And I like to use these more grayish or desaturated or white-based green color correctors when I'm at my pay list. The next one in this category is the KimChi Chic The Most Concealer, and this reminds me a lot of the Exa concealer, but it's a more pigmented version of it. It's also slightly warmer. It's a very, very subtle difference, and because of that I can wear it when I have a little bit more of a tan, a little more warmth in my skin tone. And this has a slightly thicker consistency than the Exa, but I think they're very comparable. I have two Tarte green color correctors. The first one is the Shape Tape and the other one is the Creaseless green color corrector. What's nice about the Tarte one is they sell a mini version of this, so if you wanted to start with something small, you weren't sure about having to invest in a full-size green color corrector, they do offer minis. I'm going to talk about these both together because I think they're incredibly similar. They're great for every day. They're not very thick, like they have a thinner consistency. They're not super white based, at least compared to some of the other products I'm going to talk about. The creaseless version is slightly lighter and slightly more blue than the Shape Tape, but I don't like the applicator as much. It's just a long brush, while the Shape Tape one has a doe foot, and I just think that's a lot easier to work with. Both of these are $32, but the creaseless one has a little more product in it. The creaseless one has 6.4 grams, while the Shape Tape one has 6. Overall, the Shape one is maybe slightly more neutral leaning, while the creaseless one would maybe have a little bit more of like a gray-blue tinge. But I would say that these still are more relatively neutral when we're looking at all of these compared. The next one in this gray category is LA Colors Correct Conceal. I got this at the dollar store for $1.25. It doesn't have a super strong white base, so I think people with slightly deeper skin tones could also benefit from using this if you'd like. It's a little bit deeper than the Tarte green color corrector. And again, I would consider it slightly more neutral than strictly cool toned or gray. And the last one in this category is the LA Girl Pro Conceal. I really like the formula for this. I have the same one in white that I also use as a foundation mixer, and I just think that they're really easy to work with. I'm sounding like a broken record, but again, this one is not so pigmented that it's difficult. The reason I keep saying that is because I definitely have some green color correctors that you need to be more careful with, and you'll see what I mean as we go along. But this one also doesn't have a lot of a white base to it. It is the deepest green color corrector that I have today, and that's fine for me if I do find that it's a little too deep. Like I said, I have the white version of this concealer, so I could lighten it up myself. And yeah, I wouldn't say this one is strictly gray. I would say it just more has like a little hint of coolness. The next four color correctors I have are the most warm or more yellow-green versions that I have to talk about today, and I'll start with this Winky Luxe Peeper Correct. I would say this one is mostly leaning neutral, but definitely has like just slightly more yellow than the other ones that I was talking about previously. And this is a squeezy tube, so you do have to be slightly more careful not to put out too much product, but I've never really had a problem with it, so just something I wanted to keep in mind. It's not as easy to control as like a doe foot applicator. This can be easily blended out. It has a slightly thinner consistency, so it's again really easy to work with. And bonus points for the cute packaging. It's got like a purple background with some gold floral and then the gold lid. It's cute. The next one is this Essence Correct and Conceal. This is slightly warmer than the Winky Luxe one. It doesn't have a very heavy white base, and that makes it really easy to work with. Again, slightly thinner consistency. I believe Essence is a little bit easier to get your hands on internationally. So I really like to see that it's a more affordable and accessible product. And I think this is a really great starting point if you're like dipping your toes into color correcting with green. This next one is easily the most yellow warm green color corrector I have, and it's from e.l.f. It's the Camo Color Corrector. I wouldn't say it's incredibly pigmented, but it is slightly more pigmented than the one from Essence. And it's the same price as the Essence one, but you do get a little bit less product than you do with the Essence. And so if you're not using as much because it's more pigmented, it might have a similar cost per use as the Essence one, but that's just something to keep in mind. I think this one is like the smallest color corrector I have, like with the least amount of product. I lied. There is one color corrector that has less product than the e.l.f. one, and that's this one from NYX. It's the Pro Fix Stick Correcting Concealer. I have a lot of thoughts on this one. I probably have more thoughts on this one than any of the other green correctors I'm talking about today. This one is a very white based. It's very pigmented, and it's still a little bit warm, so when I look at comparisons, it just seems to pop more so than the other colors. You need to be so careful with this. You use even just a tiny bit too much product and it is turning your foundation green. I like that it's a stick. It makes it easier to work with other stick foundations that I have, because as I'm drawing swipes on my face, I can just draw a couple swipes on here. But please know that this will stain your face. It won't stain it right away, but if you leave it on for a little bit too long, it will absolutely leave a green stripe on your face. I know because I put like one stripe here, and then one on my forehead, and then I was drawing the Basma foundation stick around it. It was when I was first trying it out that way, and then I needed to step away to do something. I think I needed to wash my makeup sponge or something, and I didn't blend it in right away, and when I came back, I couldn't blend it in. It stayed a stripe on my face essentially for the rest of the day. I didn't really have anywhere to go, so it was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I could see it. It was so strange. So now I don't use it in that way. I just take a pair of tweezers, the back of a pair of tweezers, and I just grab a little bit of it and put it on the back of my hand and then mix it in with other products. Like I said, it goes really well with those thicker foundations or with stick foundations because of the formula. Another thing to keep in mind is that the actual stick part will fall out. I did have that happen once, and I was able to just smush it back down and it doesn't fall out anymore, but that's just something to know, to be careful. I know how to use it now, and I do like the result of it now, but because of how finicky it is, and because of how pigmented it is, and the fact that it could stain your face, I would say that it's sort of at the bottom of the category for me personally. Like Face Atelier is definitely at the bottom, and then the next one is the next one above it. Lastly, I'm going to talk about my more blue-based green color correctors, and I'll start with these two from AOA. These are from the Shop Missy website. The pot is $1, and then the stick is $1.88. And these are both really great with stick foundations. I also use them with my regular foundations, and they work just fine. And what I like about these is, even though I might assume that they would be more pigmented because they're stiffer formulas, they're actually not. They're very easy to work with, and they do feel very thin. So again, great if you don't want to overdo it, great if you're a beginner and are worried about turning your foundation green. They work well with stick foundations and with other foundations too, and they're incredibly affordable. I don't necessarily think that you would need both because the colors are very, very similar. I would say that the pot is slightly more pigmented, and the pot is also slightly more blue than the stick. And then I'll end this portion of the video with the absolute bluest green color corrector I have, and that's the one from Ulta. I originally purchased the one in the old packaging, and then I saw that they updated the packaging, so I bought this one too. I would say these are the same formula, just in different packaging. And these are very, very blue and very pigmented. So the two most pigmented green color correctors I have are the one from Ulta and the one from NYX. These are by far super, super pigmented. You need to be a lot more careful with these. The main difference is the tone. The Ulta one's more blue and the NYX one is more of a warm green. An interesting thing I wanted to point out is that the packaging for the Ulta ones say that this is waterproof. I don't know if I'm really noticing a major difference between the color correctors in that way, but I just wanted to make that known. I wouldn't say I go for these more minty greens all the time, but I especially love these when I am at my palest and I don't really want a lot of warmth in my foundation. And they also work for foundations that I have that are too yellow. I have one from Smashbox. I might have a couple other ones that they just pull too warm, even if they match me depth-wise, and this helps to neutralize them so that they match me better. I'm also going to list these color correctors from lightest to darkest because I think that's helpful to know. I'm also going to put up a chart for each one listing the price, the amount of grams, the amount of ounces, and then the price per gram and price per ounce. You'll see that the AOA pot is the cheapest per gram at just 8 cents. And then the most expensive one is the NYX stick, and that one is $6.25 per gram. Arguably, you're probably using a lot less of the NYX each time, so this isn't like the most accurate way to see which one would be the best value, because differences in formula and level of pigment and stuff like that, those are factors that I can't necessarily account for in this exercise, but I still wanted to include that comparison. When I did my best and worst under eye color corrector video, I think 2 years ago, a lot of people asked in the comments which one was my favorite, because I didn't explicitly say that in the video. And that was intentional, because a lot of color correctors I prefer on certain occasions or for different reasons. And so I don't really have one that's like the absolute best. It really depends on what I'm going for that day and what I'm trying to adjust. But I know people want to know which one is the best, which one is the worst. And I did talk about the two that I would think are the worst, but the ones that I think are the best are the KimChi one. This is one of my favorites. I love that you get a ton of product, so you won't go through it super quickly. It's really great as like an everyday foundation mixer. It's a little more pigmented, so I don't need to use a ton of it every single time. And it just has a formula that seems to work well with a lot of my foundations. If I have a really warm foundation, or if I'm really pale and I want to neutralize or desaturate the foundations I have, the one from Ulta is fantastic. You do have to be a little more careful with it though, like I said. And if I'm using a stick foundation or a thicker foundation, I do really like the AOA stick or the AOA pot. The majority of the gray ones that I talked about outside of the Face Atelier one are relatively easy to work with for me. I feel like any of those would be hard to mess up. But if you have a really warm skin tone and you're looking for a warmer green color corrector, I don't think you can go wrong with the Winky Luxe, the Essence, or the e.l.f. one. I'll reach for the Essence one for a couple days, then switch to Tarte, then switch to KimChi, and I really don't see a major difference in how they perform and how they work. I don't think any of them affect the performance of the foundation that I'm mixing it with, so it's not like one is breaking down my foundation faster or making it last longer either. I'm going to happily keep all of these and finish them. The NYX and the Face Atelier ones I likely wouldn't repurchase, but any of the other ones seem to work really well. Again, it really just depends on what I'm going for that day. If I need something more pigmented, if I need something warmer, etc. So I'm really happy to have a bunch of different types of green color correctors at different price points to recommend to you. I feel like there's a lot more that I can do to compare these or show comparisons, so if you have any questions in the comments, I'll do my best to answer those. And if there is an aspect that I feel like I'm really missing from this video, then I'll make a YouTube short to go with it. I really appreciate your patience. I know I've been talking about this video for a long time. I really gave myself time to fully test out all of these and get a really good feel for how all of them perform. So I finally felt ready to film it, and I do appreciate your patience while I got that all sorted out. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in my next video.